Hey Team Bio, welcome to your screencast on the thylakoid membrane system. We're going to be talking about photosystems, pigments, and electron transport systems. If none of that makes sense to you yet, don't worry, it will soon. Okay, so we're talking about photosynthesis. And as we've discussed, the overall chemical equation for photosynthesis is, this is way too big. Make this. C is one more bigger. Set this to 3. Okay, good. CO2 plus H2O, so CO2 from the air plus H2O from the roots with a little bit of energy from the sun is used to make C6H12O6, which is glucose, plus O2, oxygen gas, which is a byproduct. It's a waste product and is released. What do I want to say about this? Well, yeah, this is the overall but unbalanced chemical equation that you've already been introduced to. And you know that photosynthesis actually comes in kind of 2 parts. You know that part 1 is the light-dependent reactions, and part 2 is the light-independent reactions. And today's screencast is going to be focused on these light-dependent reactions. So they take place inside and across the thylakoid membrane system, and these are the action players. Okay, just to orient yourself to where this is all happening, you know this is the cross-section of the leaf, and you know the primary sites of photosynthesis is the palisade mesophyll, and the spongy mesophyll is the secondary site of photosynthesis, and inside of all of these cells that are doing photosynthesis, we have tons of chloroplasts, and you've been introduced to the structure of the chloroplast. And we're going to zoom in today on one single thylakoid. So that's what this box is. This is the TMS, the thylakoid membrane system. And inside here, this is the lumen. This is the space within the thylakoid membrane. Outside here, this is the stroma, not to be confused with the stomata. So we're so zoomed in here, we can't see the inner membrane of the chloroplast, but this is the stroma. And then this is a single thylakoid. Okay, good. That's kind of our orientation to where we are. Now, the light-dependent reactions start with an unfortunately named protein. It is called photosystem 2. It's unfortunately named because there is another photosystem in this sets of reactions that happens later in the sequence, which is called photosystem 1. Photosystem 1 follows photosystem 2 in our reaction chain, but it was discovered first, which is why it's called photosystem 1. Okay, so this all starts within photosystem 2. And photosystems are proteins that, here's a zoom-in box showing you the photosystem, that are full of a molecule called chlorophyll. So every one of these little lollipop guys is a molecule of, this is a page break, chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment. This means it absorbs some wavelengths of light and it reflects others. The reason why plants appear green is because chlorophyll molecules reflect green light and they absorb blue light and red light. So the only light that is bounced off of them is green, which is why plants appear green. Okay, so what happens, this is what happens when light from the sun strikes a molecule of chlorophyll. So here we have light from the sun coming in and striking a single chlorophyll molecule. Now, inside of a chlorophyll molecule it's like a ring-like structure at the top. And suspended in the center of the ring is a single atom of magnesium. This is showing us the nucleus of the magnesium atom. And orbiting the nucleus of the magnesium atom are electrons. So orbiting here, we have electrons. Now, the way that electrons work is if you have an electron and light from the sun strikes it, it is going to jump up into a higher energy level orbital. So here I'm showing my electron jumping up. It absorbs energy from the sun, and then it jumps up to a higher energy orbital. That electron can then fall back down to its original level orbital, but in doing so, it will re-emit this light that it originally absorbed. Light from the sun strikes it, it absorbs it, it jumps up to a higher energy level, then it falls back down, and it re-emits that light. Okay, chlorophyll is a special molecule because it allows the light that is re-emitted to be channeled in a very specific direction. It doesn't just go out willy-nilly anywhere, but this chlorophyll molecule will channel the light to the center of the photosystem. And all of these exterior chlorophyll molecules will do the same thing. So we end up getting all this light being absorbed by these exterior chlorophyll molecules and then re-emitted towards the center of the photosystem. So you can draw this all here. All this light is striking the photosystem, and then the light is being channeled on this central chlorophyll molecule. It's actually a pair of chlorophyll molecules. Okay, so what happens here? There's the same magnesium atom at the center of this central chlorophyll molecule. And when all this light energy is focused on it, on the single electron, we give it so much energy that not only can it jump to a higher orbital, but it can actually escape the pull of the nucleus of the magnesium atom entirely. And it can be just ejected out of the atom. It is now called, we're going to call it an HEE, which stands for a high energy electron. So that's what's happening within the photosystem. Essentially, we're taking all of this light energy absorbed by all of the chlorophyll molecules in the photosystem, we're channeling it onto one electron, and then that electron is now high energy and can be kicked out of the photosystem and passed down the chain. Okay, so I guess I should also say that maybe I should have started with this. This whole process starts with H2O being split into H plus ions and oxygen gas, which maybe I should do in a different color. What color did I do oxygen? I think I did it in purple. And oxygen. And this reaction that happens at the very beginning of photosynthesis is called photolysis. Photolysis. Photo meaning photon or of light, lysis meaning to break or to split. So we take water and we split it using light energy. So part of photosystem 2, in addition to creating this high energy electron, is using energy from the sun to break water in half and produce hydrogen ions, oxygen, but also releasing an electron to the center of our photosystem. So this high energy electron that we've created by channeling all this light energy, it came from water. We stole it from water where it was low energy initially, and then using all the energy from the sun, we turned it into a high energy electron. So we kick out a high energy electron, so this becomes a HEE, and it's kicked out of the photosystem, and it is passed to a series of proteins that we call an electron transport system. Okay, this electron transport system uses some of the energy that's contained within the high energy electron to perform active transport. It pumps, these proteins pump hydrogen ions, which are just single protons, into the membrane. So every time the electron is passed from one to the next, a hydrogen ion is pumped into the membrane, and then we pass the electron here, and a hydrogen ion is passed into the membrane. Now, there's a higher concentration of hydrogen ions inside the membrane than outside the membrane. So this is active transport and requires energy to do because we're pushing this hydrogen into the membrane against its concentration gradient. Where does that energy come from? Well, it comes from the high energy electron. By the time the high energy electron gets to the end of the chain, we've used a bunch of the energy to pump hydrogen into the membrane. And so what exits the electron transport system is a medium energy electron. We'll call it an MEE. So this is an MEE leaving, and inside of photosystem 2, the same exact thing happens. We absorb light energy with exterior chlorophyll molecules. It's used to excite electrons, but then it's re-emitted into a center chlorophyll molecule. So what's ejected out of photosystem 2 is another high energy electron. And again, we pass this high energy electron down a series of proteins that we call an electron transport system. It's also sometimes called an electron transport chain. CHAIN. So you'll hear both things. And the purpose of this electron transport system is to take these high energy electrons and put them on a carrier molecule that can bring them to the next part of photosynthesis, which is the light independent reactions. Okay, so at the end of the chain, we end up with 2 electrons. So this happens 2 times, 2 high energy electrons, and they are picked up by a carrier molecule. It's kind of like a suitcase, which allows you to safely carry high energy electrons, which could be dangerous to the cell. It's called NADP+. So NADP+ binds with a free hydrogen and picks up 2 electrons, and it becomes a molecule called NADPH. Okay, save that, and we're gonna highlight it in green and then save it for later. Okay, back to this hydrogen concentration gradient that we created here by actively pumping protons against their concentration gradient using the high energy electron created in photosystem 2. This concentration of protons is used to drive the formation of ATP using a molecule called, actually I'm going to label it on this side, ATP synthase. You guys have already been introduced to this idea of chemiosmosis, the idea that ions, a concentration of ions across a membrane contains a electrochemical gradient, and we can use the energy of this gradient to drive the formation of ATP using an enzyme called ATP synthase, which spins as hydrogen ions are pushed through it, and that energy is used to bind ADP and phosphate into ATP. So that's exactly what happens here. Hydrogen ions are pushed out of ATP synthase because they are at a higher concentration inside the lumen than they are in the stroma. And that energy, as they move through ATP synthase, is used to bind ADP and free inorganic phosphate to form ATP. Okay. The last thing that you need to know is that ATP and NADPH are the two products of the light dependent reactions that are going to be used to power the light independent reactions. So these are products of the light dependent reactions and they will be used to power the light independent. Okay, this is important because I guess I just want to say we've already converted this light energy that is being collected in our photosystems, and we've stored it in two molecules as chemical energy. But it's not a very stable form of chemical energy. So the light-independent reactions are going to take this unstable chemical energy and store it in a very stable molecule, glucose. Okay, that was a lot, but that's it. See you in class.